All right, sorry, I just had to get launched live officially, but I just had an hour call with my community manager, guys, Anthony. Obviously, you know Anthony behind the scenes. He's doing all the work, so of helping get you guys engaged, helping get you guys opportunities to make money. But I said I'd be back every single day, and look who's standing on business now. It's your boy. I'm back again. Caleb Schulke. Welcome to the stream, guys. Welcome to TikTok. I have TikTok on my iPad here just because for some stinking reason TikTok just loves not abiding with the other platform rules. So although I can stream on one computer, right, one screen to YouTube, to Instagram, to Rumble, all that stuff, TikTok needs its own little special little space. So here you go, guys. My iPad has to mess up the whole aesthetic of the desk. That's just how it goes. And I will say that you guys are directly interrupting my Buffalo Wild Wings time, so it is going to be ravenous there. I'm going to tear that up. I'm going to get in there, and it's going to be a bad night for those people once I get to beat up. So I'm just letting you guys know that my hunger is going to push me a little bit edgy tonight, okay? And I want you guys to be aware of that because I'm going to end this conversation as quickly as I can, but I also want to get you guys informed and keep you up to date on exactly what's going on in our beautiful, perfectly peaceful world that we have come to know and love. You know what I'm saying? All right. Tonight's title, AI, War, and the Collapse of Reality. Quick shout out to everyone that's in here real quick. And without further ado, this is the host of the Ascended podcast, your boy, Caleb Schulke. If you don't know me, you're probably on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, or Rumble. Drop a like, subscribe, and we're going to get started. So first, I want you guys to understand something. The war as a whole isn't coming. It's not. There's no war coming because the war is already here. It's invisible. And most of you guys are losing. You're losing because you don't even know what battlefield you're on. You don't even know how you're fighting, who the enemy is, what's keeping you stuck, what's keeping you trapped, and you're just kind of complacent in all of this, in my opinion. I think that too often you guys fail to be informed of what's really occurring, and so your lack of giving a fuck is what's rubbing off. Pause. But it's allowing just this news, this even crazier and crazier slippery slope of, have you even looked at the news lately? Have you even seen the bullshit that's happening? Are you even aware of this? And is it not impacting your life at all? Because it really, really will be if you don't pay attention. Things are happening, the world's getting crazy, and I'm the only one here trying to keep the sky from falling. And I understand I sound like Chicken Little. Maybe I even look like him. Look at my stupid hair here. But somebody's got to care, right? And so I'm here. I'm helping you guys out. And I want you guys to be informed of everything. Let's get into the news. I'm going to bring my mouse over here for a second. All right. So the first segment we have today, I call this one, The Real Enemy Has No Face. OpenAI has a recent partnership that I probably shouldn't talk about officially, but let's just say it's with the government. They've been working with the government on specific informational tools and improving their technology because obviously, guys, this is the new arms race. We're in, just like the Cold War, right? Nuclear bombs. We're in another arms race to invent the best performing version of AI. And if you guys are tracking that in any context, you know it's called AGI, which will inevitably lead to the creation of ASI, or artificial superintelligence. So Meta has some pretty crazy tools, and we'll talk about those in a second. I'm going to pull up the actual notes that I have here. Okay. Welcome in, guys, by the way. I see everyone's joining on TikTok. Just go ahead and spam the like button on here. On Instagram, I don't even know if you guys can like that on Instagram, how that works, but I appreciate all of you getting in here and just paying attention because this is an important space to be. So let's talk about that AI, the OpenAI deal, right? OpenAI landed a $200 million Pentagon contract. So yes, we are spending money. OpenAI is now an official DoD contractor, snagging a $200 million deal to deliver custom AI models for cyber defense and warfighting support through July of 2026, next year, based in Washington, D.C. So they're spending $200 million in a year's time to develop this. This comes from Times of India, credible source. This comes amid the OpenAI for Government rollout, centralizing all federal public sector initiatives. Okay, so there's this initiative, right? It's called OpenAI for Government, or just, right? There's these strategies going on to get our government more involved in the process, because our government is at some point going to have to regulate AI. We have to understand that when governments are slow and you have a bunch of old guys sitting at a table discussing which fingernail polishes should be allowed on the market or not, then you have to have something to speed up the process, because AI doesn't give a fuck. AI is going to move way too fast, and if you can't keep up with it, then you're just going to lose. You understand what I'm saying? So why does this matter? It marks OpenAI's pivot from civilian focus to military grade applications, challenging incumbents like Palantir. If you guys don't know Palantir, Palantir is a wonderful company. Go ahead and look them up. See what they're involved in. Just see. I can't say more than that because of my position and my duties, but I will say pay attention to Palantir. And if OpenAI, ChatGPT's creator, guys, if you don't know this, OpenAI made ChatGPT. The little thing that you're talking to your French robotic lover that you made up, named Antoine or whatever his name is, right? And he pretends and serenades you with these wonderful poems every night before you go to bed when you're brushing your teeth. And you crawl into bed and think about how much you love Antoine, but he's really just ChatGPT in disguise. That same company that made that software is partnering with the military, the government, right, in a deep way. And I obviously am military too, so I know what these things look like. Okay, I can't talk specifically on some of these points, and I'm limited by, again, none of these views are the official views of the government, I should disclaim, and I'm just stating mere facts here. I'm just telling you guys how things are, but I want to make that separation between my official position and what I'm doing here. Is OpenAI becoming a defense contractor, or are they just evolving? Is OpenAI trying to work specifically with the government? And the only question I'll ask is, why does OpenAI care about having interactions with the government and the government data on its citizens? It's just a question, guys. I'm not pushing it anywhere. I'm not going anywhere for all intents and purposes. Think about the question. Why does ChatGPT's creator give a shit about having government level information on its citizens? Do you understand what I'm saying? Who wins? Palantir, OpenAI, or the DoD? Does Palantir win because they have somebody that can help them accelerate their growth? Is this a competitor for them? Does the government win because they have both of these companies competing for the best interest and the best price? Is this a good partnership? What do you guys think? I want to hear your thoughts. I want to understand where you're at with this, because although probably most of you haven't even garnered a single fucking clue of what I'm saying yet, those of you that know enough understand the implications of this, okay? So go ahead, guys, like this live stream, please. Get me boosted up here so I get canceled quicker, and I'm going to go on to the next bit of news. Oh, it also happens to do with OpenAI, my best friends. Guys, I don't hate OpenAI. I use ChatGPT every day. I actually teach you how to use AI. I've built bots specifically on ChatGPT to help broke guys like you who are crawling out of that Subway job start a business and make 5-6 figures a month, because you go to old guy businesses, the old geezer businesses, the retired guys that have 7 figures in the bank, and you say, hey, what if you didn't have to hire 7 people in an office to run one Instagram account? What if I could do that with AI? And I show you guys how to do that so you can create an invaluable service at a much cheaper cost than these old people are paying, and they will give you all their money, and you will be rich, and you will retire on the beach, and you'll be doing silly little podcasts all day like this. Okay, I'll show you how to do that. The link's in my bio. I'm not going to sell it because I know the value. You can read the countless dozens of testimonials that we have in the reviews. Let's get into this point though. OpenAI cautions upcoming models, right? So upcoming developments in ChatGPT, let's just say, might give amateurs the tools to create dangerous biological weapons without deep expertise. When you unrestrict AI, when you unrestrict AI's capabilities, that means that people can stumble upon information easier than they didn't think was possible. And when people are dumb enough, like they are nowadays, and will actually act on that information, well, then you create a dangerous level threat to society. And again, I don't want to be negative Nelly or the pessimistic guy, but I'm just saying, be careful at what you open up. That's a message to you, OpenAI. That's a message to Google. It's a message to Microsoft. It's a message to anybody that has a big enough fucking influence to make a difference. Pay attention to what power you're giving people. But also the inverse too. Pay attention to what power you're taking away from people and limiting in their freedoms. Because both of those will determine the legacy your company leaves behind and the impact you will have on the world and its future. That's it. Okay, so OpenAI, right? They plan a public event next month with the government, like we've already talked about, and NGO participants to address mitigation strategies. Because the model they've rolled out is capable of spilling bad information potentially. And so they don't want people to be misinformed, which leads to them doing things that get hurt, bad things happen, and then OpenAI is liable. So obviously, again, businesses care about money and they don't want to be liable for things. So you have to make partnerships and get your word out. So you can say, I at least tried to inform you not to burn yourself on the stove. That was then your choice to do it, and look where we're at. Okay, these are my prompts for this. If AI could cure cancer, if OpenAI, if ChatGPT could cure cancer right now, but also builds bioweapons, then where do we reign in innovation? What is innovation and what is dangerous level access, right, for the common person? Do you think the government has a role in restricting how much? Again, these aren't my views. These are just questions I'm putting out here. Partially because I don't want to get shot. I also don't want to get canceled. And I have limitations in my job and what I should say. But I'm just posing a rhetorical question here. Does the government have a responsibility to the average person, as a philosopher, right, to limit these things if they could be threatening to the average person? But at the same time, if they could do miraculous works like curing cancer, unlocking new energy potentials, whatever it's going to be, how much do you limit it? Like, that's a very hard philosophical choice to make. It could have infinite good, but AI could have infinite bad. So the real question is, how much do you let the average person test those boundaries? Should it be restricted to certain people? There's so many philosophical questions that honestly I don't really trust a few old people to make the decision for when they don't even understand how AI works. I think AI should be regulated by people that will severely have implications of its actions in the future, like us, the younger generation. If you guys agree with me, then fucking follow me, subscribe to me, and get more news like this. It's literally, I'm the best source out there. I'm probably the LeBron James of tech, of AI, of all this stuff, right? Just because I give a shit about you and I care about us living. I care about us not nuking each other to death and us existing in the next few years. So sue me, okay? Can AI ethics keep pace? Do you think the government can actually keep up with this too? Do you think even as much money as much focus as we're putting into this, because of all the other issues our government has to deal with, do you think we can keep up? Again, that's not anti-governmental. Don't fucking take me to court. I'm not making a statement to criticize the government openly. I have nothing I'm not doing that, guys. I'm just saying, do you think a government that has to take time to discuss everything and has a million other issues, do you think that that's fair to the government and to the people that are being served by the government? Do you think we can even keep up with that, or do you think we need to assign that to somebody else? Who takes over, right? Like, who would be responsible for those decisions then? These are all questions that we have to ask and figure out. The same AI that saves lives could also end them. And we're seeing that more than ever nowadays, and that could be a trend if we're not being careful with our actions. There's no in-between here, right? You're either benefiting from AI, or at some point it's gathering your data to harm you and reporting it to companies that have now partnerships with the military and the government to track who's being a threat or who isn't. You guys understand that? That's just how things work. It's not my opinion. God, I hate that I have to say this every time. AI is great. It's the future. That's all the comments of these like 30-year-old guys that are crypto bros that are like, oh, I can use AI to write my YouTube video, and I could use it to figure out what to text my girlfriend that I've never had until I was 30 because I don't know how to talk to women because I'm this weird guy that only looks at drop shipping and OnlyFans. Like, do you understand, guys? Like, most people aren't thinking about the implications as deep as they should here. And I don't want to be around for a reality where we let that fully play out without any regulation. That's my view, okay? The view isn't anti-government. It would never be that way, honestly. Like, again, I work for the government. It wouldn't be criticizing a certain people or a certain organization. It would just be saying, why don't we be damn careful about what we're doing? I think that's a general statement you could all agree with. I mean, like this, right? I assume you guys would like that message. All right. We're going to get into some spicy stuff, some really spicy meatball. But let me take a selfie. Remember that song? Let me get a drink of water, though. I know that every second I pause to take a sip, somebody's going to leave the podcast because their fucking caveman brain gets so overwhelmed with the lack of stimuli. They need to juice it up. They need to take a quick hit and just give into that, right? They need to feed it something. They need to juice it back up. They need to inject that dopamine. And so you guys can barely sit in silence while you even take a sip of water. It just kind of pisses me off, which is honestly why I take as long as possible when I'm doing things like this. I don't like being mean to you guys. I like interacting with you guys. If you guys met me in real life, we would have the best fucking day. We'd go to Chuck E. Cheese. We'd go to Dave & Buster's. We'd go to the casino. God, there's a trend there, isn't there? We would... I'm just kidding. I probably would never go to any of those places, but we would have a good time. All right? And I hate to be pessimistic, but I think pessimism is the only way to get people to pay attention, and I think that's what we resorted to, and so that's what you get, okay? I can be optimistic all day, but at some point, somebody's got to hold your hand and tell you that life isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Okay. Number 3, tech executives. If you don't know what that means, right, if you didn't take a class behind high school English, it means that the owners of these big AI companies, these big software development firms, right, they're commissioned into the Army Reserves. The Army is giving these people, these tech executives, positions in the military. They're just handing them to them. They're giving lieutenant colonel ranks to these people, which is, if you're not tracking, 80% of the military is enlisted. That 20% are the officers that run the military. And lieutenant colonel is like in the 80th percentile of those officers. So they're basically saying, hey, tech execs, because you're so involved in a space that we're trying to invest in, why don't you take one of the biggest leadership positions in a military organization that you don't have any knowledge of other than just that it's here to protect our country? Under a boot camp light program. They got reserve commissions. Again, reserve is different from active duty because active duty you have to work full time. It's what I do. But reserves, you're kind of like part-time military, but the rank is still equally important. Okay? They're serving about 120 hours a year to fast-track military modernization in AI, drones, and data systems. Now, I don't think this is a bad thing. I don't personally feel that bringing tech executives into the military to modernize our military technology is probably not a bad thing. It keeps us competitive. It keeps us in better defense of our country. I am worried about the implications of privacy and data sharing with these people and how much their companies might get access. I hope it's just a rank thing that they can join as that rank, right? I think it's a little bit cheating because they're skipping, so many ranks of the military to skip that far. But I understand they have a very important skill to bring in. I don't know why the whole reserves thing is involved. Probably just so that way they can command people directly under themselves in the military and have a say. They don't have to route it through somebody officially. But Probably good to have checks and balances. I'm not going to dissect this whole thing right here, though. I'm also not criticizing the government or the military. Again, just stating facts and observations about this. Is this integration or infiltration? That's the question I wrote down. That's the question that I want you guys to think about. Is this integration? Is this tech executives, the biggest companies out there, working with our military to bolster our technology background, our backbone, and be able to provide better capabilities to warfighters to execute the mission better? Or is it an infiltration of people, these executives that want access to our data, our military records, our personnel that can tell them what to do, what not to do, and maybe may or may not have the best interests of the government at heart? Only time will tell to answer that question. And again, I'm not saying either of those are my opinion. I'm just saying pay attention, because either of those could happen. Or hopefully it's somewhere neutral in the middle and we never have to worry about it. But again, I'm here to give you guys the news. I'm not here to criticize systems, at least not yet. So this elite commission, right, giving these executives from these companies such a high rank right away, does it dilute military ethos or credibility, or does it bring up needed innovation? Does giving them such a high rank right away and the ability to control things in the military, is that too much power? Is that diluting what it means to have served that many years and to work your way into the military if these people can just have it handed to them? Or is that a good thing, because these people only in this position have the ability to influence the way the military operates and modernize ourselves quickly? That's what I want you to be thinking about. And again, these executives, these company-rich executives that want to get integrated in the military, they're being handed lieutenant colonel ranks. They're skipping full boot camp integration, right? Working their way up the chain. Major tech is just now in uniform, and we have to live with that. They're literally in uniforms. They're putting men in uniforms at the highest levels of our military and telling the rest of the military what to do, because they have that background and because they have to make decisions to modernize. Because we've let ourselves slip so much that this is our only option. Other world news. Let's get to it. Honestly, I'm excited. Let's talk about some stuff. I'm gonna refresh my Instagram browser because, like always, it seems to take a shit on me. Oh, I can't. Whatever. All right. So next news. Russia and China are working together. Russia and China, like the two biggest threats to American democracy, are working together. They're doing drills together. They're buddy-buddy. I need you guys just to process this information. Like, I'm taking time to let your brain hear what I'm saying, but then actually internalize the news I'm telling you. Russia and China, two of our country's biggest opponents, are conducting military drills together. Putin announced upcoming large-scale military exercises with China. There's no official details yet, though. That comes from Reuters. If you guys aren't familiar, Reuters is a very, very credible, long-standing news source, so believe that. They continue joint naval drills with Iran in the Gulf of Oman, now an annual event. I'm not criticizing making political statements. God, I have to say this so damn much. Russia, China, Iran. Right now, what it looks like, United States, Israel. Those are big, big dogs. Big dogs in the fight. And I hope that we can solve this peacefully. But this is a gray, grim dawn, grim dusk, actually. And I want you guys to understand that things are about to happen, because maybe in this time, these big powers aren't going to back down. Everyone's going to want to hold their ground in this case. Everyone's sick of what's been leading up to this. And I'm making statements about the general populace, not my own opinion, because I can't, right? I'm being very clear about this. But I would say, if I could say something, hypothetically, that when big dogs get in the fight, blood is shed, a lot of blood, and it gets bad. That's just the general observation. And so I want people to be aware that we should be very careful about being a big dog. We played that card a lot. And I'm not criticizing anybody's decisions. I'm not making a statement in that way, but I don't feel comfortable with this news. Okay? And neither should you. That is the only opinion I will leave on the table that I think all of us can agree with. Nobody likes this. Nobody likes where we've gotten ourselves. Now the question is, where do we go next? And what does it look like? An annual event to conduct naval drills with Iran in the Gulf of Oman. Russia, China, and Iran. This isn't theater. It's a strategic shift toward a new Eastern bloc, right, of countries and organization. The Gulf of Oman drills, that's aimed at U.S. energy choke points. They're miles from U.S. energy hubs. And they're exercises as of now. Again, I can't tell you how that looks, only you can interpret that for yourself. Ships don't just sail. They telegraph intent. Power blocks, power players, Russia, China, countries allied with them, Iran, are conducting exercises together. And they're doing it very close to U.S.-held power sites, power energy reserves that our allies are also at. What does that look like? How easy would it be for something to slip up? Something to get attacked, something to get damaged. When you have big dogs walking around with their elbows out, very likely somebody's going to catch a stray elbow. You know what I'm saying? That's all I can say. That's all I can say. All right. BRICS. 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 If you guys aren't tracking what BRICS is my mic still going? I hate, like, the last time I did this, it died and it was a big thing, so. I believe it's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and who's that? Syria? No, South Africa. Why am I forgetting this? Guys, I feel so embarrassed right now. Yeah, South Africa. My bad. So those countries have, again, initially met to determine kind of their own currency system, alternate to the US dollar, which is already a big concern. And now they're including Nigeria, Indonesia, Vietnam, and they're reshaping economic power blocks. There's a big drive to pull away from the US dollar by these countries. What was the other news I just told you before this? How are things looking to you right now? That's the only question rhetorically I'm going to ask. Africa's interest building with calls for alternatives to dollar hegemony. The US dollar has been kind of the main backing of the global economic system, and Africa's being finally offered alternatives by allies like Russia, China, India. So does Africa take it because they're tired of their state that we've left them in and our allies have left them in? Or do they turn it down and stay with us? Like, you understand this is bigger than just economics. This is a political alliance reshaping. And it's sneaky. It's subtle. But being aware of it is important to understand how tides are shifting and what the real game is being played here. Okay? Cool. Economic autonomy. You know what? What I want to ask is, what happens when the global South funds its own pathway, not ours? What happens when all these countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Indonesia, Nigeria, Vietnam, that are all working together to work on their own system separate from the US dollar, when they decide it's more convenient, that there's more money involved to use theirs? What happens to the US dollar? What happens to the US economy? What happens to markets? What happens to day-to-day people dependent on that world system to hold up backed on the US dollar? Times are volatile. It's unstable. And what are you doing to protect yourself right now? I'm not saying protect as an imminent threat is coming. If it might be, it might not be. But what are you doing when the markets fall further? When you can't trust what's going to happen next? When you can't adequately save for retirement? because the market might do a 180 all of a sudden and everything's gone. I'm just posing questions that will help you guys be more prepared. I don't want this to happen. I'm not rooting for things to fall apart, but I'm saying, why aren't you in a space? Why aren't you surrounded by people with discussions going on that keep you involved in the way that these things are happening and potential implications, potential game plans, so that you're not just like a victim of the news, of hearing these things and getting depressed, getting sad, because a lot of this is fucking awful. But actually having a plan to move forward, to mitigate it, and to have a community of people that support you. Again, you guys know where to go to check that out. I built that space for you, and it's free. And I want you guys to just try to find comfort in knowing that there's other people that actually give a shit about the way the world is going to move forward from this point on. And I hope to say that I am confident I can be that person for you. And you guys can do that for each other too. Don't just rely on me to do it. Rely on each other, because that's the only way we get through this. Economic autonomy might be peaceful, right? Other people having their own dollar, their own currency system, pissing off essentially worldwide. Or it could be the prelude to competing currencies, where all of a sudden BRICS comes out with their currency, like the kind of the euro, where it's like a combination of multiple different countries, and it's competing against the US dollar in the open market, which means that other countries that use the US dollar are also going to potentially switch over to that, which hurts the US dollar. And there's still just as many dollars out there. More members in BRICS means more mouths singing a different tune. And that's a tune that's less American. Okay? Guys, dude, this sucks. I feel so sad talking about this stuff. But who else is? Do you understand the burden I'm carrying having to do this? And for you to have to listen to it, you could go to the next video. You could watch cat videos. You could watch your favorite gamer playing fucking Dead by Daylight. I forgot what it's called. Say Five Nights at Freddy's. But this is the space that you actually learn something. That's your time on social media. You get off and you say, wow, my perspective has changed. I feel like the life I'm living, I actually have a little bit more control over because I understand how this system works, of what's actually going on behind the scenes. And I'm not just being run for my money. Do you know what? I hate saying, do you know what I'm saying? That's kind of like my saying, but think about that, okay? Let's talk about Africa. Speaking of which, in Africa, you're having Mali, the country of Mali, protests and coup, as in like an overthrow, rumblings. Mali saw large pro-democracy rallies in Bamako, calling for reversal of junta rule and extended mandates facing a violent crackdown. That comes from just Wikipedia's updates. So the prompt is, right, that I've written down, Africa's got a coup wave, right, an overthrow, rebellion wave. Good for accountability, for holding leadership accountable to actually keep things fixed when you threaten a rebellion? Or is it dangerous for stability? Because if they overthrow that country, what happens? Think about another country right now that you might know, that you might be familiar with. That just maybe there's been talks of protests. There's been actual protests happening. There's been government intervention in those protests. And maybe not the best support for the current leadership. But gee, I can't think of a country that's like that. Can you? What would happen if that happened in the same country? Could be bad. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants any of that to happen. We have to look at history. We have to look at other events, just like science, just like how we learn anything, and look at the implications of things and understand that violence sometimes isn't the best answer. And there's other ways to fix things. And we have to try as human beings to work things out first. And I hate that we've just resorted now and more to just being violent first. Are these military takeovers and threats of takeovers signals of a failing democracy, or the people leading the democracy? Same with anywhere else. Is the threat of protests and civilian unrest a sign that democracy as a whole is failing, or that democracy is stronger than ever and that the leadership is failing? Questions I can't answer right here. When people block streets shouting for democracy, who's the rebel? The soldiers or the citizens? The people fighting to shut that down and fight against the system of democracy because with their batons and keeping order and preventing a free speech and voice from happening, or the citizens leading the movement to keep the system that they've come to know and love? Just a perspective, not my official view. I can't say that. It has nothing to do with the way I'm thinking. But I want to pose that question. Too many times we think, well, those guys are rebels. They're throwing the stones, right? But why? What are they trying to protect? Maybe they're the ones trying to protect the system. Maybe the government's trying to protect the system. They both could be right. They both could be wrong. But I want you guys to make your own decisions. Because for once, I'm not spoon feeding you like some big ass news outlet the exact information you should think and how your brain should be wired. I'll give you my perspective with time. But for right now, think about how you want to interpret that information. Make your own decisions. Be your own person. So, with that said, guys, I think it's time for Buffalo Wild Wings. It's not our sponsor. I'm just really fucking hungry right now. So, I'm probably going to wrap this up soon. I want you guys to be tracking updates in our world. Things like this that are happening. I was so worried when I started this because I was like, well, technically I'm affiliated with the government. And I have a code and my own legal structure in addition to regular laws I have to abide by. I'm scared that I'm going to get in trouble for doing it. Nobody gets in trouble for speaking as a citizen. And in this case, I am my own citizen, pledging my own views. I don't represent the government. I'm not in an official position or tying that to any official position that I have. I'm just speaking as a regular guy here. And I want that to be very clear. People should have the right to speak for themselves. People should not be challenged for making the views and the statements that they make. People shouldn't be getting arrested. People shouldn't be thrown in jail, being silenced for having a voice. Because true democracy happens when people decide to speak up, especially when it's hard. Most importantly, when it's hard, because that's when things change. When people are questioned, when people have the ability to critically think, that's when we progress. And in that breakthrough, that's when we look back and say, I'm glad that happened because I learned something. I was put in an environment where I escaped this echo chamber of thought and I got better. And that's what I want you guys to do here, civilly, peacefully, with each other, following my channel, in my free community. I'm not just talking about politics here. I have a business. I have a community of people that make money online. People like you that want an actual system that works, that isn't relying on these big fucking gurus teaching you how it happens, paying thousands of dollars for some bullshit course that's supposed to lead you to financial freedom. No, they just want your money. And sometimes people like me have to fucking say that because I've lost thousands of dollars on courses. Sure, I learned a little bit. I've gotten played by systems that I thought were there to help me. And I'm not calling out any system here. I'm calling out the fake people. It's time to be real. It's time to actually make a change. It's time to speak your voice. It's time to be surrounded by a community of people who actually give a shit and are working to better themselves, not just in business and AI and technology and all these developments like we do in our space, but in every area of your life. To get better in the gym, to have a stronger mind, to have better connections, better relationships, to challenge thought processes. And with that said, that is how we get better. I'm Caleb Schilke. I'll see you guys tomorrow, as always, and thank you for tuning in.